Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Shemot, and it opens the book of Exodus. We learn, of course, of the enslavement of the children of Israel, and very right at the beginning in chapter 1, we see how things develop very, very quickly. At the beginning, we learn that Joseph dies, and then afterwards, the nation of Israel multiplies rapidly. Then there comes a new king on Egypt, and he feels threatened by this increase, and he begins the process of enslavement. He puts extra taxes on them. He forces them to be involved in slave labor, to work hard. They continue to multiply, so he sees his plan is not working. And then he turns to the midwives, okay? And we have this in verse 15. The king of Egypt spoke to the, okay, now this is the question. It says the Hebrew midwives. Okay, now who are these women? In Hebrew it says la me'aldot ha'ivriot, and no question the correct translation of that is the Hebrew midwives. Okay, one whose name is Shifra, the second one whose name is Pua, and then he says, when you deliver the Hebrew women, etc., then you're supposed to, if it's a girl, let her live. If it's a boy, kill him, just as he is being given birth. Now, then it says, we learned that these midwives fear God, and so they disobeyed Pharaoh's order. And when he goes to them and he says, why are you disobeying me? He says, that the midwives answer Pharaoh that the Egyptian women and the Hebrew women are very different. When the Hebrew women gave birth, they are like animals. It's so quickly that by the time they get there, the babies are already born, and therefore there's nothing really they can do. So the question has arisen, who really are these women? Are they indeed Hebrew midwives, or are they not? Now, of course, the biggest problem is that chapter 15, it seems to say they're Hebrew midwives. However, if you look at the continuation of the story, it doesn't seem to fit that they're Hebrew midwives because, number one, he gives them names. They're names of Shifra and Pua. These names are very different than the kind of names we would normally see in the Bible. They seem to be Egyptian names, although that's not something we can really say is, conclusively that really means anything. What is interesting, though, is number one, why would Pharaoh turn to Hebrew midwives, ask them to kill the babies of their own people? Why would it even occur to him that they would cooperate with him? Okay, this is a war. This is war of the Egyptians against the Hebrews. Why would Pharaoh enlist the assistance of Hebrews to help him in his plot? Also, the scripture notes that they fear God as a very unusual thing. You would assume that the Hebrews will fear God. You won't assume that an Egyptian will fear God. Okay? Thirdly, we see that the whole connection with them, God said when we see in verse 21, because the midwives feared God, he established households for them. He being, that God rewarded them. And so we have this kind of extra reward in singling out these women that doesn't seem to fit if they were part of the nation of Israel. Okay? And therefore, there are those that interpret the word in verse 15 not as Hebrew midwives, but as midwives of the Hebrews. Which is fine. You can also translate the words in that way, and then it seems to make a lot more sense. I kind of like this interpretation because it tells me something about these women. And if you think about it, the very next story is the story of the daughter of Pharaoh who saves Moses. And therefore, what I see happening in these first two chapters of Exodus is the story of three amazing women who are not Hebrews, who are not from the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who would normally not fear God because they didn't grow up in that kind of environment, who would normally side with Pharaoh and Egypt and would, conspire to do all the terrible things that Pharaoh was trying to do to the children of Israel. And yet you have a situation where 3 women stand up and stand out against this. The first 2 are these midwives who stand up, and thanks to them, many, many Jewish boys are saved from certain death. And then you have the daughter of Pharaoh, of course, who saves Moses. And I don't know, I think it's a beautiful message to the people of the nations. These are your heroes, okay? When everybody in the world is ganging up on Israel or ganging up on the Jewish people, when anti-Semitism is rampant, there are always opportunities to stand up against that. And these are the women that can show you the way. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video. And we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below as well as on the notification bell. And that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you and have a wonderful day.